Welcome back to our channel, where we explore important research topics that shape our understanding of the world. Today, we have an intriguing topic that delves into the intersection of international relations and human rights. We will discuss the impact of international human rights treaties on state behavior, a longitudinal study. Let's dive into why this research is essential and how to draft its introductory chapter. Importance of the research. This research on the impact of international human rights treaties is crucial as it provides empirical evidence on how global agreements shape a country's behavior, shedding light on their effectiveness. Understanding the link between treaty ratification and civil liberties, political repression, and international cooperation can inform policy decisions and aid in the advancement of global human rights standards. Ultimately, this research has the potential to enhance our ability to promote and protect human rights on a global scale. Chapter 1, Introduction. Chapter 1, the introduction, typically includes a concise presentation of the research problem or gap, its significance, and the overarching research questions and objectives to set the context for the study. It also provides a rationale for why the research is important and necessary in the broader academic and practical context. Research problem. The research problem sets the stage for your study. It identifies a gap in our current knowledge. For instance, a research problem for this topic could be, despite the proliferation of international human rights treaties, there is limited empirical evidence on how signing and ratifying these treaties impact a country's behavior. Research significance. The research significance explains why your study matters. In this case, it could be, understanding how international human rights treaties affect states is vital for policymakers, human rights advocates, and scholars seeking to promote global human rights standards. Research questions. Your research questions guide your study. Here are 3 examples. How does signing and ratifying international human rights treaties influence a country's civil liberties? Is there a correlation between treaty ratification and political repression within a state? Do countries that engage in international cooperation on human rights see improvements in their state behavior? Research objectives. Research objectives clarify what you aim to achieve. 3 sample objectives for this study could be: to assess the impact of international human rights treaty ratification on a country's civil liberties, to analyze the relationship between treaty ratification and political repression, to examine how international cooperation on human rights correlates with improved state behavior. Research rationale. The research rationale justifies your study. For instance, this research is motivated by the need to provide evidence-based insights into the effectiveness of international human rights treaties, which can inform policymaking and international cooperation efforts. Chapter 2, Literature Review. Chapter 2, the Literature Review, encompasses an extensive review of existing academic literature related to the research topic. It provides a comprehensive overview of relevant theories, models, and empirical studies while identifying gaps in the current knowledge that the research aims to address. The literature review is crucial because it contextualizes your research within existing knowledge. Here are some suitable subtopics and examples. Theories and models. Consider adopting theories like the boomerang model or the spiral model to explain how international treaties can influence state behavior. The boomerang model, for instance, posits that NGOs can influence states indirectly by appealing to international actors. Literature gap. Identify gaps in existing research. For example, you may find that while there's extensive literature on the theoretical aspects, empirical studies on the impact of treaty ratification are lacking. This gap emphasizes the need for your study. Chapter 3, Methodology. Chapter 3, the Methodology section, outlines the research design, data collection methods, and data analysis techniques employed in the study. It also discusses the research philosophy, approach, strategy, and ethical considerations guiding the research process. Chapter 3, the Methodology section, is crucial for understanding how you will conduct your research. Here's how to draft key areas. Conceptual framework. Develop a conceptual framework with 3 independent variables. As an example, treaty ratification, civil liberties, international cooperation, and a dependent variable, state behavior. Research philosophy. Consider adopting a positivist research philosophy for this empirical study, as it aligns with quantifiable data. Research approach. Given the empirical nature, a deductive research approach is suitable as you'll test existing theories against real-world data. Research strategy. Employ a quantitative research strategy, as it enables you to measure the impact of treaty ratification on state behavior. Data analysis. Opt for quantitative data analysis, such as regression analysis, to examine relationships between variables. Ethical considerations. Ethical considerations are vital. For example, ensure informed consent from participants and protect their identities when collecting data. Limitations and delimitations. Be transparent about limitations, such as data availability and selection bias, to maintain the credibility of your research. Chapter 4, Data Analysis. Chapter 4, the Data Analysis section, presents the results of the research by applying the chosen data analysis method, quantitative or qualitative, to the collected data. It includes tables, figures, and textual explanations that highlight key findings, addressing the research questions and objectives established in earlier chapters. Chapter 4 is where you analyze your data based on your methodology. If it's quantitative, use a suitable sample size and employ statistical tools. If qualitative, ensure your sample size is representative and use thematic analysis. Chapter 5, Conclusion and Recommendations. The conclusion chapter summarizes your findings and their implications. It's important to reiterate the significance of your study. Recommendations offer practical advice. For this research, recommend that states engage more actively in international human rights cooperation and encourage further research on the impact of specific treaties. Suggestion for future research. Finally, suggest future research topics, like examining the role of regional human rights treaties or investigating the effectiveness of treaty monitoring mechanisms. That wraps up our discussion on how to draft the different chapters of a research paper on the impact of international human rights treaties on state behavior, a longitudinal study. Stay tuned for more exciting research topics on our channel.